My name is LeRoy, and this is my vlog reflecting upon the new student dialogue that I attended, which was the one on internationality. My first thoughts after after attending this dialogue, were that I feel like there definitely could have been more discussion on internationality itself. Um, I don't know if this is true for the other dialogues, but in mine at least, most of the time was spent kind of discussing what it is, or what exactly a dialogue is. I feel like there's definitely a lot of time spent doing certain activities that kind of involve discussion about, they kind of involve dialogue about dialogue, which I felt like was kind of redundant, obviously. Um, and I feel like we definitely, at least as a college student, or not, as a first semester college student, know what dialogue is, and we could have probably jumped into the discussion a little bit earlier on in the dialogue, but I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. Um, the Addressing the questions on Blackboard that reflect on the dialogue. Do you feel your group achieved true dialogue? Why or why not? I would say we did once we finally got to it. After we did the whole activity where you kind of go around the room saying a place you've been to, and then someone who has also been to that place comes and links arms with you. You kind of get a chance to see how everyone in the room connects. And then after that, we did an activity on where we kind of went around the room and basically wrote stereotypes about people from different cultures around the world underneath the title of that specific culture. And after we did all those activities, when we finally got down to sit down and talk, I feel like there's definitely some pretty significant dialogue involving being more culturally sensitive towards different cultures, and it kind of brings to light, or the discussion brought to light, certain little things that we do in life that might not necessarily be culturally sensitive, but also not necessarily something that we're cognizant of. Like, you could be culturally insensitive without even knowing, but it's just the first step is knowing it, and that's how you can start to eliminate being culturally insensitive, I guess, for lack of better words. And yeah, judging by the kinds of breakthroughs that we made with the dialogue, I would say that we definitely achieved true dialogue. Moving on to the next question. Share your observations of the dynamics in your group. A. Were there active voices in your group? Please explain. I guess, yeah, there were active voices in our group. There were definitely a couple kids that seemed to have a lot more to say than others. I probably admittedly could have been a more active, or didn't do as good of a job being an active voice in the group than other people did, but there were definitely people there who took the role of the active voice in the group. They seem to have the most ideas. They seem to probably have signed up for the vlog with the intention of bringing to light their knowledge in terms of internationality. They seem to be people who are pretty well read or pretty well experienced in different cultures of the world. So they kind of said their ideas and told everyone about how, like, you just have to be wary of how other people think of us as well as how we think of other cultures. Yeah, and moving on to B. Were there more reserved voices in your dialogue? Please explain. Yeah, I would definitely say there were more reserved voices in the dialogue, myself included. I said a couple things to contribute to the discussion, but it's kind of hard to get your feelings out when there are other people in the group that feel so strongly about the topic that they take up most of the time speaking. but that's not necessarily a fault of theirs. It's more of a fault of my own not being, or more of a fault of my own and the other people who are more reserved for not being more, I guess, confident in their opinions. Um, and yeah, I guess that about covers the more reserved voices in the dialogue. Um, what role did you play in your group and why? Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty fair-minded person. I like to be pretty neutral uh, in terms of my political and social views. I don't really like to swing too far to either side. Um, so I don't know. I kind of, because whenever the dialogue kind of shifted more towards argument, I feel like I kind of tried to bring it back more towards dialogue with a more centered opinion, and try to, I don't know, maybe understand why both parties in the argument were saying certain things and kind of bring the truth out of both. But I don't know, that might sound a little bit self-righteous. I wouldn't really want to say that I was like the mediator, but I don't know. I tried to be the mediator. Um, why did I play that role? I don't know. I guess it's just my. I wouldn't really say it's my personality, but it could be. I don't know. Yeah, I guess if you ask other people, maybe they'd say that I like to be a mediator, but that's kind of the role I kind of tried to take up, or at least that's where my opinion fell in terms of internationality. Um, maybe if I'd gone to a different dialogue regarding a different topic, my opinions would have fallen further to either side, and I wouldn't have been able to pick up that mediator role. But that's just kind of the way just the way my ideas played out. Moving on to the next question. Why do you think dialogue is a component of Library 100? Do you see dialogue as a useful tool in your university experience? Please share any additional thoughts or observations as you see fit. I don't know. I felt like the dialogue is definitely a useful tool in the university experience, but I feel like it would be more useful during orientation or something like that, as kind of like an icebreaker where you just kind of talk with people, get to know them through the outlet of talking about a certain topic. In my case, internationality. In other people's cases, gender issues. I'm not really familiar with the other topics, but pretty much I feel like the purpose of the dialogue wasn't necessarily as important about, or it wasn't as focused on what you talked about, but more about just the fact that you're talking in general, like you're discussing your ideas with your peers, which is kind of definitely a very important thing when it comes to higher learning. Just kind of collaborating with people and learning about their ideas, sharing your ideas with them, and then try to come into a conclusion based on a hybrid of those ideas. Yeah, but personally, I attended one of the later dialogues, so I don't really see it as. I mean, I already. It didn't really seem to me to be as much of a helpful tool in terms of like connecting with other people. But I think, which is what I think the goal of the dialogue was. I could be wrong. As a component of Library 100, I guess it's. I feel like if you're gonna have new student dialogues, there's really no place where they could fit in except in Library 100. Library 100 seems to be the kind of all-encompassing title that you give to all or that the university gives to these activities that kind of, hey, do my dialogue, get out. Where was I? Crap. Oh yeah, the title just seems to be an all-encompassing title to all the things that kind of go along with orientation, getting to know the school, getting familiar with using the resources that the school has to offer. And I guess it just kind of fell into that point, and it seemed like the university clearly wanted that to be part of the new student um, experience, so they just put it under Library 100, and it kind of gives you a feel for what other people's views are in the school, gets you more oriented with the I don't know, the school's dynamic, I guess. I don't really know. But other than that, I'm not sure why it's just something that the school wanted us to do, and that's about it. And I definitely thought of it as kind of like a useful activity. So I don't know. All in all, learned a lot about internationality, learned a lot about cultural awareness, learned a lot about being more culturally sensitive, and while I wish that it could have been a little bit more about actually talking about internationality and less about what a dialogue is, I feel like I definitely learned a lot from it, and I see it as an overall learning experience. So thank you for your time.